Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for standing by. Welcome to Arcimoto Inc.'s second quarter 2018 earnings webcast. During today's presentation, all parties will be in a listen-only mode. Following the presentation, the webcast will be open for questions. If you have a question, please submit it via the Q&A function of the webinar dashboard. This conference is being recorded today, August 14th, 2018, and the earnings press release accompanying this conference call was issued at the close of market today. At this time, we will now play a brief corporate update video. Mark?
Thanks, Greg.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Arcimoto's 2018 Q2 earnings update video. We do one of these each quarter to give our stakeholders deeper insight into where we are as a company. Let's go to our first planned rental location. Arcimoto's mission is to help catalyze the shift to a sustainable transportation system, and we believe there are three key requirements to the product that makes that shift possible. It's got to be useful for the wide range of everyday driving trips, it's got to be an order of magnitude more efficient than cars on the road today, and it's got to be affordable by the mass market. We believe we are well on our way to delivering on that product vision. Our two overarching goals for the year are to get into retail series production and to flesh out the end-to-end customer experience. And our rental experience centers are all about that latter goal. And here we are. We believe the rental experience model has several distinct advantages: a more capital-efficient pathway for broad market awareness, maximum revenue generation from our early vehicles on the road, and the ability for our customers to experience the Arcimoto as if it were their own in beautiful destination marketplaces. We anticipate that our first two rental locations, one here in Eugene, one in Southern California, will be open in the next couple of months. And now back to the factory. In Q1, we mapped out 4 discrete production series for the year. First, the Signatures, which we completed in June. The Signature Series customers are longtime Arcimoto supporters who are even now giving us the benefit of word of mouth in market. We expect that will only increase as more fun utility vehicles hit the road. We're now onto the Beta. Just last week, Beta units rolled off the line under their own power for the first time. The Beta includes both significant improvements and a reduced build time versus the early Signature vehicles. We continue to make subtle refinements to the product, improved steering, improved ergonomics, improved quality, as we move through the rest of the Betas and onto Pilot. Our first physically destructive tests correlated well with our simulation models, which means that we will be able to optimize the Pilot design with added confidence. All of the essential fabrication hardware is now here, and we're beginning to fabricate end-to-end parts for the Arcimoto vehicle, as well as the tooling necessary for manufacturing and assembly processes. We're now able to go from raw material through part cutting, forming, welding, and final machining in-house. We have made significant progress on preparing for the full Pilot build, where we will manufacture all of the custom parts for the frame and chassis internally. We now have the very first Pilot chassis built on the floor. By the end of this summer, we plan to have every component of this parts manufacturing puzzle fully up and running in preparation for Pilot build in the fourth quarter. In spite of the fact that we're holding off on significant marketing efforts until we have Pilot vehicles on the road, our pre-order list continues to grow. We started Q2 by ringing the closing bell, and we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary as a public company. We're now looking ahead to scale production in 2019, 2020, and beyond. We submitted our first draft of Arcimoto's $100 million Advanced Technology Vehicle Manufacturing Federal Government Loan application to dramatically expand production on the West Coast, as well as build an East Coast manufacturing facility. This is a truly exciting time. We're bringing our retail go-to-market strategy into crisp focus. Our initial series of limited production run vehicles are on the road, our first Beta units are on the road, and we're looking forward to ever-increasing volumes of successively more refined FUVs as we push to retail series production by the end of this year. We thank you for your continued support and look forward to seeing you on the road.
So just again, the company highlights that we really want to look at for over this last quarter. So we put our full Signature series on the road. 2 of those were last year. The balance came in the first couple of quarters of this year. We're in full swing on Beta series production, and that's just meant moving through really optimizing every part of the build process and really aiming now for Pilot. And the real distinction between Beta and Pilot is that the Pilots are going to be the first ones where the chassis and the frames of the vehicles are built entirely in-house using our own manufacturing equipment. And we're in the last stages of building the fixtures for all of the various parts, booting up all of the new systems that we have. And then as we talked about in the video, really before the audio cut out, the rental component is our new shift in terms of the go-to-market strategy. So that rather than the sort of the traditional dealer franchise model that's been around for 100 years, or even the retail store model that Tesla has been pioneering, we're really focused on destination rentals. And we believe that that has a few really key advantages. It's we think the most capital efficient way for broad market awareness. It lets our early customers actually get to experience the vehicle as if it were their own. And it ultimately, we believe that a profitable vehicle rental model is also franchisable. And that is something else that we see as a big opportunity in the next couple of quarters to really get Arcimoto destinations out into the marketplace in more significant numbers than we would be able to do on our own. So we're going to be opening our first couple of rental locations in Eugene and in Encinitas, Carlsbad area in California. And we expect those to be both significant drivers of additional revenue, but also big drivers for ongoing pre-order growth over the next many years. So certainly an incredibly exciting time for the company to see us to move from what what we talked about at the beginning of the year, which was a fairly slow, methodical building process, and then into a much more rapid, aiming for real production volumes building process over just a couple of quarters. We expect the pace of that to continue to accelerate as we work out all of the kinks in the process, and so it's definitely an awesome and exciting time here at Arcimoto. Again, our production targets, and we laid these out in our first corporate update video in Q1, end of Q1. We are on track. So we are on the same timeframe schedule that we laid out in Q1, and we expect that is going to continue. We will continue to be on schedule throughout the end of this year. Just a quick note on the financials. The key to me is that our pre-order units count continues to climb, and we're doing very little in the way of actual outbound marketing at this point. We're going to be we'll obviously substantially ramp up our marketing efforts once we have pilot vehicles on the road. But in spite of that, we continue to see our pre-orders climb. And now we're looking at an order backlog of almost 3,000 vehicles as of today. So with that, I am going to open it up to questions. And we had a few questions come in via email, and then I will jump into the Q&A. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask it using the Q&A button in the Zoom interface, and I will get to them. So first question is, what has Arcimoto learned from the beta vehicles and the Hula Car rental program? So to be clear, our first two betas just hit the road about a week and a half ago. So we have learned, the main learnings in the beta process really have been on the assembly and manufacture side, where we have been working on driving down the time to assemble each vehicle, heavily analyzing the takt time at each station, setting up the processes for bringing materials into the assembly line. And at the same time, we've done just a lot of refinement work on the little bits and pieces of the vehicle experience. And that's everything from ergonomics to continuing to refine steering so that it's very easy to steer at low speed, to optimizing range, really just looking over every part. We're also now in the heavy mix of regulatory validation, and that's guiding additional refinements to the vehicle as we aim for a fully validated from the NHTSA perspective by the end of the pilot vehicle build. And so in terms of the sub-questions, are there any design modifications we want to or need to make? Right now, the major design modifications that we are working on are all about manufacturability. So when we look at we're doing and have been doing a major update to the upper frame assembly, for example, and that has happened as a result of the welding robots. We've basically split the frame into several pieces to make it easier to weld, and that's really, we're doing that all throughout the vehicle. So, for example, on the main chassis of the vehicle, we've really worked on manufacturability. We've made it stronger, lighter, and much easier to manufacture with our manufacturing equipment over the course of the last several months. In terms of whether the beta experiences have altered the marketing plan, that was the second sub-question. The answer is not yet. So as we actually get the beta units out into the field in our rental operations, then we're certainly going to learn from that. The main purpose of the Eugene rental store is to actually really validate and test that rental model, make sure that all of the systems work, that we can onboard new customers, and that we can get their feedback at the end of the day. And then we're going to see that end up replicating that experience in California as well. And in terms of whether those experiences have changed or lengthened the delivery timeline, we don't believe that they have. We believe that we are still on track with the build schedule that we laid out at the beginning of the year. In terms of the second question in this, I saw this come up on the attendee questions as well, is what is the status of the doors? Have we developed suitable all-weather vehicle enclosures that are ready to be sold with the production vehicles? The answer is that we have built doors for the beta vehicles, but those are going to change with the redesign of the upper frame assembly. We do plan to have full enclosure, weather enclosure for the retail production series vehicles when they hit the road at the end of the year. In terms of a third question is, when will the online configurator be publicly released? The answer is, one, we are actually in beta on that right now internally. We're going to open that up to a closed beta with a select group of the very early pre-order customers first, and then we'll roll it out to everybody in the pre-order list, and that's going to happen well before the retail series production vehicles hit the road. Who do you see as your chief competitors at this point in the cycle? There's a number of electric trike startups plus Elio getting ready to compete for the same customers. So the competitor question is an interesting question. Based on our new rental model, the vehicles that we look at as competitors for that model would be ones that are already out on the road. Vehicles like the Renault Twizy, like the Scoot Coupe, even vehicles like the Polaris Slingshot that are all available for rent in destination marketplaces. We believe that the Arcimoto Fun Utility Vehicle offers compelling advantages versus all of those products in terms of experiencing both urban and more rural vacation destinations. When it comes to the new trikes coming out on the market, we believe that we have hit the sweet spot in terms of daily utility, efficiency, and affordability by the mass market. So, Elio is a great example of a company that has a product that is certainly well tuned to a commuter marketplace, but when it comes to actually taking other people around on a ride throughout the city, having that two comfortable seats for both passengers, providing a really compelling experience for both passengers, we think that's a differentiator. That would also apply to vehicles like the Electromechanica Solo. Have we developed a warranty service plan? Yes, and the warranty and service plan is we have a draft in process, and that is going to be implemented as we bring retail series vehicles out into the marketplace. So, moving on to the attendee questions. Please talk today about partnerships with Uber. There's talk at one point about partnerships with Uber Eats. The answer to that is we continue to have interesting discussions, but we have nothing to announce at this point. I think and speaking broadly about partnerships with a variety of different fleet organizations, as you see us put vehicles on the road in more significant numbers, I think we'll have a lot of interesting stuff to share there, but not something that I'm going to be able to talk about at this point. Dennis also asks, remind me and everyone, are you still planning to produce 19,000 units a year, or what was it? So our target remains the same for the near term, which is to achieve a build rate of 200 vehicles per week by the end of 2019. That equates to about 10,000 vehicles per year at a build rate with one shift working. We believe that with two shifts, that we can actually get north of 20,000 vehicles per year out of our current facilities. And then, as I mentioned, we have submitted our federal government ATVM loan application. It's a $100 million application. It's the same funds that funded, Tesla's major expansion and so on. And we believe that will allow us to, should it go through, to dramatically expand production on the West Coast, as well as build an East Coast production facility. Will your rental operations in Eugene be on demand, similar to Zipcar and the recently introduced Blue Bikes? Do you have any plans to offer such on-demand temporary rentals? Great question. So our initial rental plan is going to be really focused around half-day and full-day rental. But we are definitely aware and cognizant of the scooter apocalypse trend that has swept the nation, and that point-to-point short trip vehicle rental operation concept is, we think it's a real no-brainer for the Arcimoto vehicles. They are a perfect solution for that type of an operation. And I think what you'll see over the coming year is that we are going to kind of check all of the above boxes in terms of where we want to see the vehicle used. Short trip rental, full day rental, vehicle delivery operations, first responders, daily commuters, and so on. And so that's the nice thing about a vehicle that is suited to about 80% or 90% of the trips out there is that that hits a wide range of utility options. Do you have clarity on what states, if any, may require helmets to operate the vehicle? We do, and actually we are working on an updated helmet map that's going to show you sort of three categories of states: the ones that have no helmet requirement, the ones that have an age-related helmet requirement, and the ones that currently require a helmet for the Arcimoto. So that's going to be posted on our website within the next several weeks. We just want to make sure we've dotted all the I's and crossed the T's. Keith asks, it looks like you are burning a little more than $2 million a quarter with a little over $7 million of cash. What does your cash flow plan look like for the next year? So we believe we have the resources on board to achieve retail series production, at which point that burn equation is going to change dramatically. And obviously capital formation is an incredibly important part of the business going forward. And we're looking at a number of ways to move that equation. Does the vehicle have a VIN, and does it require a number? I'm not sure. Yes, every vehicle we build has a VIN. All vehicles that go on the road are required to have VINs. So in this question, I know you've made some large capital investments. We have enough reserved capital and material stock to build a significant number of vehicles and start building a revenue stream in Q1 2019 plus. Yes, we have the significant capital expenditure is entirely in the rear view at this point. So the big investments that we've made in terms of all of the manufacturing equipment that's now coming online, those are behind us, and what's in front of us is real revenue. We expect that to still be modest in Q3, but we'll start to see it pick up substantially thereafter. You mentioned franchising opportunities for rental vehicles. How can we be considered? I live in South Florida, a hot destination. Send us an email, info@arcimoto.com. We have a number of folks in the pipeline in terms of rental operations. We think Florida is going to be an ideal rental destination for the Arcimotos. And again, franchising is probably going to be one of the other significant early revenue opportunities for us. As we've laid out the franchising plan, we're looking at an upfront rental franchising fee, a pre-purchase of vehicles at wholesale cost, and then an ongoing revenue sharing agreement. Are you guys exploring partnerships with environmental groups and also utilities, electric utilities that might promote your product as they strive to meet their own goals? Yes. And we have a number of groups here in Oregon that we've been talking to, in California as well. Michael Stern asks, how many employees are currently employed and how many are anticipated by the end of the year? We are currently employing 76 people, and we expect that number to increase to probably around 100 by the end of the year. Are there upcoming events for test drives? If so, what are the dates and locations of these events? So yes, we will be having upcoming events for test drives, and those will be focused initially around the launches of our 2 rental locations. And then as we get to pilot, which is going to be, we'll have the first pilot vehicles will be in build end of this quarter and then be on the road next quarter. Then we're going to spin out again another nationwide test drive campaign. And you'll see us as we update our conference calendar and our road trip calendar. This fall, we're going to be on the road quite a bit promoting nationwide. So stay tuned on the website and to the newsletter. Any progress on partnerships with golf courses? Do you see that as a good market? We haven't specifically sought out golf courses as a market. Typically, a golf course is going to be looking for a regular golf cart that can carry 4 people and is limited to golf course operations. But we definitely see golf communities and retirement communities, destination communities as great markets for the Arcimoto. If you think about a place like the Villages in Florida that has 60,000 registered golf carts on the road, we see that as a remarkable opportunity for the Arcimoto product. Can you talk a little bit about the 3 to 5 year vision for the company? So Arcimoto's mission is to help catalyze the shift to a sustainable transportation system. The product that we are building today is the individual purchaser, the fleet purchaser's version of that very efficient daily use product. What we see next is 2 things. As we look out at 3 to 5 years, we look at dramatically expanding production around the world. So initially focused on the East and West Coast in the United States, but we have discussions in the works with folks in all the places you might expect, targeting the European market, targeting the Asian marketplace, in order to bring Arcimotos into production all over the place. And then ultimately, the real long-term vision is the self-driving version or the self-driving next version of this platform that we see really as the basic unit of autonomous transport in the sustainable transportation system of the future. So if you look at a lot of the autonomous vehicle work that's going on today, it's SUVs, it's 5 to 7 passenger vehicles. But if you compare that with how rideshare works, where 80 to 85% of rideshare trips are just one occupant, we see that as a big disconnect. So the platform that we're working on is going to be optimized for those 80 to 85% of trips that today are just one person. Are there public details regarding the start of retail phase? Slide says Q4 plus. If someone is in the first 1,000 units, when might they be built? So if you are in the first 1,000 units, or if you're in if you have any reservation, you can email us at info@, and you will get an updated estimate on when your vehicle delivery will take place. Once we have the vehicle configurator online and you'll be able to log in, you'll actually be able to just see an estimate of delivery on the website. We are not releasing today projections of what those build rates are going to be, but as Terry was telling me this morning, basically once we are at the retail production point, it's going to be just faster and faster and faster, and we're expecting that we will be able to build. Once we really get all the kinks out of the process, we're going to be able to up that production rate considerably. So the initial cost point was at $11,800. The new cost is $15,000. Is this a temp increase due to low volume, or is a 12K goal not reasonable anymore? So that's a great question. So what we are using for our financial estimates is an average sales price of $15,000. We believe we will hit our target base model price point once we are at scale production in the end of 2019 into 2020 timeframe. The initial vehicles that we build at low volume will not be at that $11,900 base model price point. Those are, and you can sort of see this play out in the industry generally, with Tesla, for example, that is going to be delivering a $35,000 car, but initially those first ones off the line are higher optioned, more expensive ones. And that just simply has to do with the realities of getting into production and scaling production. Are you in discussion with other manufacturers who have working assembly lines, or are you reinventing the wheel? An assembly line is built around assembling a particular product. So if another manufacturer has an assembly line to build a car, for example, it's going to be a very different assembly line than the one that we are building out for the Arcimoto. We are not reinventing the wheel in the sense that we have a seasoned team of pros who know how to build products that run the spectrum, and they are putting this assembly line together at what I think is quite dizzying speed. Has the process of fitting body panel parts improved? Was mentioned in Q1, Q2 reports this year. Any progress? Absolutely. So as we have gone on, the fitment issues that we had are largely gone, and then we are now tooling up the plastics, and those should snap together like Legos. Right, Terry?
Correct.
Yeah, got some confirmation from across the table. Are there any plans to set up rental facilities in tourist places such as Hawaii or Miami Beach? Absolutely. In fact, those are the type of markets all around the country and around the world that we are actively going to be pursuing. Anywhere where it's a high volume tourist market. Could be Las Vegas, could be San Diego, of course, where we're going to have one of our very first centers. But we're thinking that Florida is going to be a hot market for it. We think places like the Hamptons and even the Jersey Shore could be a fantastic place to open a rental operation. We want places where there are going to be significant tourist traffic, where we're going to have a lot of visibility, and where the people who are driving the vehicles are having fun and thinking, gosh, I got to get one of these for my own driveway. As a shareholder in Raleigh, North Carolina, when will there be demo units on the East Coast? That is a great question. We are aiming to get some of our pilot units out to the East Coast, but it will be late this year when we will actually have permanent vehicles on the East Coast that can be driven around and demoed and so on. Whether we will host them in Raleigh or not has not been decided. Will the Arcimoto qualify for any federal income tax credits? We are actively working with our folks in DC to actually get motorcycle electric vehicle credits reactivated once again, and we'll have more to talk about on that soon. Have there been any developments regarding DMV regulations and state approvals? There's a question about helmets, but so will the vehicle be street legal in all 50 states? Yes, so it will be street legal in all 50 states. It's a motorcycle. The question really on the state by state level has to do with helmet laws, and motorcycle endorsements. And we are actively working on those issues with state legislatures all around the country. Vehicles load carrying capacity. We are assuming right now that we're going to have a 650-pound carrying capacity on the vehicle.
That's the required for the passengers.
Yep.
Cargo.
Correct. So the passengers and cargo, 650-pound total. Will the retail units be available fully enclosed with full climate control? We anticipate that, yes, we will have full enclosure options and climate controls available with the retail series production launch. Will the sales model be something like Tesla, where company stores sell and service? Or are you looking into a dealership model? And again, this is really we see the rental model as being our in-market experience center. Those rental centers will offer service, but they will not actually sell vehicles. They'll rent vehicles. Sales of vehicles will happen online. So you order a vehicle online, shows up in your driveway. And this is really basically a way, when we looked at should we open up a bunch of retail stores a year before we're actually going to be able to recognize revenue from those sales, that we looked at that as a very capital intensive go-to-market model. And the rental approach really ended up becoming a real no-brainer to us in terms of getting our prospective customers, one, to be able to have a real experience of the vehicle, and then two, to be able to actually offset the cost of having that in-market retail experience. Is Arcimoto enrolled in any smart city programs? So we've actually been a part over time of a couple of smart city grant applications. We're not currently a part of any particular smart city programs, but that's something that we are always open to. Discuss your sustainability measures regarding your material sourcing. Thank you. So great question. And this really speaks to what I consider to be one of our core values as a company, which is environmental efficiency. And in our sourcing, we are beginning the process of looking at environmental impact, looking at transportation impact. A lot of what we do, a lot of that push ends up being to source locally wherever we can to reduce material content. But then also it comes down to things like pushing our suppliers, our battery suppliers, for example, saying, what is your approach regarding cobalt in terms of the cobalt content and where you source cobalt? And they're feeling that from all of their other customers as well. So those processes are all in the works, but that is absolutely something that we are committed to. One is to simply reduce as much as we can the material content and the emissions content of the materials of the vehicle, but then just by simply lightweighting the vehicle and removing material entirely, but then also doing the very deep dive with all of our suppliers on making sure that we have the absolute most environmentally efficient vehicle we possibly can. Will there be training available? Oh, and Terry actually brought up a great point, which is that we are, one thing that we're doing that right off the bat, if you look at a typical automotive manufacturing facility, there's one big room that you will not see at Arcimoto, which is the paint shop. So we're using thermoformed body plastics instead of painted body materials, and that's a significant environmental materials reduction for the product as a whole. So will there be training available to local bike shops to provide service locally? And this is another question that Tony asked about how will maintenance be handled for customers not near a rental facility. And so again, rental facilities will have service, but we will also have independent service providers everywhere that we sell vehicles. Do you have any plans for the vehicles to have stereos and speakers? Yes. So the vehicles we have on the road now have Bluetooth speakers. We really let your phone be the main music device. and that's it's pretty cool. So for the rental program, will customers need a motorcycle permit? That is going to depend entirely on what state you're in. We're focusing our initial rental operations on states where you will not have to have a motorcycle license. You'll just need a normal driver's license. And as we make all the forward progress on the legislative front that we are anticipating, then of course we'll open up rental operations in those areas as well. Ramin says, thank you for taking our questions. You're welcome. And really appreciate your time, folks. I think we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to hand it off to Greg here to close it out.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us on today's call. We look forward to updating you on our future progress.
Oh, wait, one more thing. We're going to fix that video and put it up on our YouTube channel here directly. So it's up and it's fixed. I have direct word. So if you want to catch the real version of the quarterly update video that doesn't have me stumbling all over it, then go ahead and point yourself to our YouTube channel. And thank you all again. Catch you next time.